Suddenly I'm searching, I don't know why. I start to get the feeling there's a mind behind my mind, and I don't know where I'm going, don't know what I'll find. One thing's for certain, left this world behind. Everything is clear like the dawn before the storm, like lightning and thunder, like a new baby born, and something stirs inside me, deep down inside. Mighty giant long in slumber opens up its eyes. Holy being, awaken in me, holy water, wash me clean. I will shine and I will see. Holy being, awaken in me. Thought I was old, thought I was weak, thought there was nothing left inside of me, but thinking's just thinking, just dreaming a dream. Surreal life I'm feeling, boundless energy. Holy being, awaken in me, holy water, wash me clean. I will shine and I will see. Holy being, awaken in me. After so many years, how could it be? I'm just seeing something right in front of me. I lay it all down, I'll fall on my knees. I am free. I plunge into the wilderness, and I will feel no fear, 'cause my heart is pure and my mind is clear, and I feel the angels calling me to where I began. Sacred source of everything, circle without end. Holy being, awaken in me, holy water, wash me clean. I will shine and I will see. Holy being, awaken in me. Holy being, awaken in me, holy water, wash me clean. I will shine and I will see. Holy being, awaken in me.
Okay, so I must be going deaf. I can hardly hear, but I have my buds on all the time. Sorry. So I wanted to talk about Mahamudra today, because we should know, we're not like going in all paths. We're going in a path, but that path encompasses all paths. You can't go in 5 different directions at one time to get to an end spot. You may go in one direction at one time and another direction and another time, but you can't go in all 5 at the same time. So we should have some idea of the path that we're on, and our practices, to have an appreciation for the practices that we do. When we talk about attainment, and bodhisattva attainment, they speak of the various bhumis or states or levels. But the first one is joy. That's why I can tell when if a person hasn't even reached the state of joy, then I know they're not on the bodhisattva path. Now, but remember, that's the first stage. So lest you get lifted up by pride. No, that's the first. That's the first one. But I'm happy to know the first one. No, because the amount of intensity and force, karmic force that it arouses, unless you learned how to handle that first state, you're liable to burn up before you got any further along the bhumi path. So there is something comforting in the arousing of joy. It's like a reflective shield or coat or cloak that protects you from the fears and the from both the fears and the arrogance of the ordinary mind. It's one of those protective. It's like a protective layer, so that one can only get two down. One can only get, there are limitations to how far you can devolve once you've entered into the state of joy. And Mahamudra, the Mahamudra of liberation, the supreme and unsurpassable. Unsurpassable means there is nothing greater. That's what unsurpassable means. So there is in the Naima sect the Dzogchen, and it is called the Great Perfection Dharma. And but then there is the Mahamudra of the Kagyu sect, and we lean more, even though so we talk about the rainbow body, and everybody's after the rainbow body, and the rainbow body is an enlightenment that occurs when? Yeah, in the bardo, after you die. So you don't know that you have it on this side. You're looking for some sign. But in the Mahamudra, it is attainable in this very life. So you know for yourself, and you die with the assurance that you've taken. It's just the falling away of the body. And it is characterized by the celebratory celebratory songs and treaties of charismatic and usually controversial great adepts and Mahasiddhas, such as Talopa and Naropa and Marpa and Milarepa, and of course the teachings of some of the later teachers like Gompapa and so forth. And these occurred in the early centuries after the first turning of the wheel of Dharma in the first centuries. And these were called secret teachings, not because it's a secret, but it's the secret teachings because people had to enter into a certain level of perception in order to be able to receive the benefits of them. So they weren't given to everybody because some people would not be able to receive them, use them, make use of them, benefit from them. And so they weren't widely, for instance, the esoteric Dharma is said, or Dharmas are said to have come down through the lineage of Rahula, that he only gave them to his son. And of course, I can imagine if I were the son of of a Buddha, then I probably would get, just by virtue of my rebirth, I would have to be at a certain level or capacity for awakening to be born as the Buddha's son. It would be terrible for a Buddha to have a dullard. I mean, it just doesn't match up with things, how things work. It would be such a waste of a father to not, for the son not to be, have the capacity, for awakening, to be available to all of the teachings and the practice and just the energetic personage of the Buddha. So we have to assume that Rahula, and of the ones that get fussed at, Rahula naturally gets fussed at the most by the Buddha, and that's because the Buddha recognized or understood his capacity for awakening. So if you get fussed at a lot, take that as a good sign. That you sort of like if somebody can't get it, you don't even push them too hard. You just like pet them on the head and bless them, and that sort of thing. So I never mind when my pastors used to preach on me almost every Sunday. I know it surely wasn't a month that went by that there wasn't a Dharma talk about me, and it got to the point that didn't bother me. And we'll talk about why that sort of thing does not have to bother you. Actually, it should make you feel encouraged. And so I see how I want to put this in. We can use everything that we experience. And I'll tell you, when we, quote, learn something, we know that the learning is not complete unless there is some experiential quality to the learning, experiential quality to the teaching that takes it from being mere words on paper to something that we encounter and have to reconcile or reckon with in our everyday life. And when that's happening, we know it's almost immediately, and it does happen more immediately. The further we advance, that circumstances will appear in our life to let us know how we should understand a thing. So some view that we have, how it should be corrected or advanced, or what we're missing, and now we're confronted with, to help us actually see the essence of the words in a teaching. So, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about causality and the rules and the methods of continual practice. Continual practice being the operative word. In one of his writings, Buddha Master said, very few are able to reach the state of prajna and to be liberated from samsara. Very few of us. He said, candidly speaking, the answer or the reason why can be stated only in 2 sentences. In holiness, the law of cause and effect cannot be ignored. Now, ordinary beings are tied up by the law of cause and effect. To say that in holiness, the law of cause and effect cannot be ignored means that even holy ones, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, cannot ignore the principle of cause and effect. Not ignoring does not mean not believing in. Not ignoring does not mean believing in. Not knowing, not ignoring does not mean not denying, nor does it mean understanding the principle of cause and effect. Not knowing, not ignoring means turning the wheel of Dharma according to causes and relatively by effect. So it's important for us to understand the meaning of something. Ignoring, not ignoring means turning the wheel of Dharma according to causes and effects. And that's the important thing that we have to understand. So that means that after we read something or after we hear something, or I'm sorry, I can't see you. Could you, no, let's see, if you sit up, but this way, this left, your left.
Now, if you sit still, Bill,
So-
then move deep forward. Come on.
Something's still wrong. Yeah,
Okay,
thank,
yeah.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. So not knowing means turning the wheel of Dharma according to cause and effect. So this is letting us know that the Dharma is not forever settled out there, but it has to be interpreted for its usefulness in the specific environments of people, places, and things. And that means then that what something means or the explanation for something can change in accordance with what is actually happening and who is actually involved. So you start with some basic tenets and some foundational principles, but that is just the starting point. The growth or the proof of maturity lies in how you take that basic premise and interpret it in the light of people, places, and things. And having the discretion and having the discernment to know, to allow that, giving place to a discernment that allows that to come forward. And if we don't have that, then we become just a bunch of rule keepers and actually people with a low level of understanding. And so we start with instruction from the master in much in the same way that a baby starts with instructions from their parent, usually their mother, not all the time their mother, but they learn yes and no. They learn don't touch. They learn what their boundaries are, like they can't go off the porch or out of the yard. And these are trainings designed for their safety. This is like, you don't have to think about it. This is do what I say. You don't have to think about it. This is the kind of protection that is established for your safety. But as you begin to get older, and as you begin to kind of understand how things work in the world, you start to be able to think a little bit more independently. And then if a mother or a father is telling you how you should think, how you should act, then it's not going to be the most beneficial to you. So they have to allow you to make mistakes. It can be difficult. I remember seeing the movie Ray Charles when the mother got the diagnosis from the doctor saying that Ray was going to be blind. He said, you have to prepare him to live as a blind man, And so she made up in her mind then that she would not pamper him and coddle him because she wasn't going to be able to be with him throughout his life, nor allow him to have as ordinary a life as he could have if she coddled him in that way. So he was going to have to learn extraordinary skills and able to protect himself. And he was going to have to expand the ordinary limits of his faculties so that he could know how to keep himself and maneuver in the world. And so it showed the scene of when she first stopped doing that. So he would call Mom, and I don't know, I think he was 6 or something like that. And his vision, his field was getting darker and darker, and he was stumbling around, and she was right there in the room with him. And he kept calling for her. And before, when she would have run to his aid, run to his defense, do it for him or whatever, she let him make his mistakes, stumble around, find his own strength, find himself. And she cried as she did that, but she knew that was going to be necessary because she was not going to always be with him. And that's how it is with the master in his instruction. You know, he gives only so much instruction as is necessary to set up a field of protection, but also to leave the space for you to develop your own capacity for handling the vicissitudes of life, to develop your own capacity for sorting out what is what, the capacity for strengthening your own understanding and the walking out of precepts and examples. Otherwise, they simply become rules for you to obey without any sense of understanding how it actually applies and what should be applied to the moment, you see? And so this can be a hard lesson. This is what takes the most time. Shoot, we can read all the do's and don'ts, you know, and we get them in our mind and we get them in our heart. And then he says, forget about it. Drop them into the mind, into the heart, and then forget about it. It doesn't mean so now I don't have to do them. It doesn't mean that, but it does mean that there becomes a ground that is established so that one knows how not to go beyond the intentional, the essence of things, but that one can use their placement in a situation to bring about that which is most expedient, or that which is most helpful, or that which is most useful, or that which is the most enthusiastic in the sense of that brings the gladdening or the overcoming power of joy into a situation. It's kind of like that. And so the Buddha talked about the need for Dharma protectors. Dharma protectors, 2 kinds of Dharma protectors. One is a Dharma protector who helps us with undertakings, the things that we want to do. If one can't think of Dharma protectors as beings, because if you're not on this plane, in this body, you don't exist, then that's fine. You could think of it as the embodiment of certain factors and capacities. And you could think of these images as symbols of that kind of embodiment as opposed to actual beings. Later, you can revise how you think about it if you want to. So one may be thinking of the embodiment then of certain qualities and certain strengths that I can take up and I can actually use myself. I can use it to comfort me. I can use it to strengthen me. I can use it to evoke a response out of me. I can use it to still me. I can use it to calm me. I can use and you can take these qualities and use them according to your, but only, you can only use them, I'll say that, effectively according to your understanding of how it applies in the present moment, in this circumstance, and concerning the beings that are present there. Otherwise, it's just a by rote, he said, they said, the book said, but we don't bring a living quality and characteristic to the moment that has life and transformation power, transformation authority, if that power is the word that bothers you, or transformation ability, if the word authority bothers you, or transformative possibility, if any of those words offend you. And so you can choose the level or the status of how you integrate your practices into your walking out your daily life. So in the original teachings of the Buddha, the first turning of the wheel, also the second turning of the wheel, and certainly the third turning of the wheel, the Buddha's teachings symbolize the empty, luminous nature of mind, the empty, luminous nature of mind. Unfortunately, the Theravadins don't share in open discourse or open teaching. These are the discourses of the Buddha. They don't share the methods of the luminous mind. Doesn't mean there weren't any. It just means it doesn't emphasize. And so without a strong introduction to and comprehension of the luminous nature of mind, we fall back on the things that protect the mind. Things that protect what mind? Things that protect the ordinary mind. And so we have all the teachings, like you would teach a baby. Don't touch fire, hot. Don't go outside the door. Don't go across the street. Taste not, touch not, handle not. That's your safeguard. When one reaches a place that the safeguards become stifling and restrictive, because there is the arising, the breaking through because of the safeguards, as a tribute to the wonderfulness of the safeguards that allow you to be here to play another day, right? Then there comes the questioning, the why. It says, don't do that. Why? Don't do that. Why? There comes the questioning. So one knows then that something other than the thoughts of the ordinary mind are at play, and that could be due to karmic conditions, or it could be due to being in the right place at the right time that a karmic affinity can be established. So that means the fulfillment of a karmic action has matured, or you happen to be in a place where you can hear something for the first time, and there is the budding of karmic affinity. Those are the two conditions for hearing teachings that take you beyond the scope of where you presently are. It could be the ripening of karma, or specific to the awakening of the next stage of your realization. I won't say your training, but the next stage or the next level of realization, or it could be being in a place where karmic affinity can be established for the first time. For the first time, those are the two ways. And so there is this empty, luminous nature of mind, but through the Theravadan, we didn't get methods of the 84,000 Dharma methods. In general, we didn't get methods. That doesn't mean nobody got the methods. It just meant in general, for wide swatches of teachings, you got the basics. So I should say right here something about tantric teachings in case we have any you know, pride about it or thinking that we're special because we have it. The tantric teachings, uh, according to the Buddhists, that are not necessary requirements for empowering them. The blessing of one's master is sufficient to arouse, planting that seed, to arouse in you an awareness of an innate capacity of a luminous or boundless mind. And and I think it's important for us to know that. Otherwise, particularly if we're following like a Mahamudra pattern. For instance, in the Nyingma school, which was one of the earliest known schools, they did not have this view. So they had a lot of intense practices, like and the like the six yogas of Naropa, a whole lot of uh, intense practices they did with the body, with the props and the winds and the channels and all of this. But with the what later became known as the Kagyu, it was a little bit simpler, like, suppose I point you to the empty, luminous nature of mind. Then you don't have to do all of those things. You just need to come to a recognition and a realization of the luminosity, the vastness of your own mind, and that is resident, that it's intrinsic in you. So then that means that what I'm actually learning, I'm not really learning, right? It means that I am awakening to my original mind. I am realizing it. It's not somebody else's mind. It's not a mind somebody gave me. It's not the master's mind, but I'm awakening the clear perception, we use words like it's dawning on me, like I can see clearly now, but if we cling too tightly to this and we get a mental image or picture that something is coming to us rather than the obstacles that covered over or dispelled or camouflaged what was already there, the curtains being drawn back, or we're looking in a different place, looking inwardly, as opposed to looking outwardly. We're looking inwardly, and we are seeing the dawning or the awakening, the realization of our own vast mind. And it's like if I want to have tomatoes, there has to be like a tomato seed that gets planted, nurtured, watered, kept the bugs off of them, all the sun has to shine on them. And depending on how much sun I get, how much water I get, what kind of soil is in it, it could be big tomato, or it could be a little, spindly tomato plant. Um, or the bugs come and eat it up before it can actually turn into anything. And so that harvest, that season, that year, it doesn't grow. The next year, it might grow, you know. Uh, and so one starts to get an understanding that this is the real me that is maturing, or it's maturing in vision and in understanding. Um, and that it is none other than my own nature that is awakening. So to awaken might mean to be asleep to something, to not realize something. That is already, that is already there. That is already there. So then that means that all of the teaching and the training we get is designed for one purpose, and that is to awaken what is already there. And if we go into our studies and we go into our practices with this idea, then we will get the fullness and the benefit of, of the practices. And we won't get stopped. Rules will become like training guidelines to help us awaken what's already there. And whenever we do something, we can inquire, or thinking about even undertaking something, we can inquire. We can also be um, uh, vigilant to hear the voice of ultimate experience and to receive instruction. Sometimes we don't know why um, that instruction is coming through. Sometimes it was the answer to a question that we posed. So it can go from being an answer to a question that we posed to um, the just the benevolence of goodness to point something out, or to point us in a direction. You know, that's the working of merit in our life. Merit works in our life. We don't have to do everything. Some things get done when we do some things. So we can do something and it has a consequence, it has a benefit, and that merit ripens. And I didn't have to intentionally do that thing. But I'm available in a space where the merit can is infused in the moment, and I receive the benefit of something. So I did something over here and something happens over here, and I didn't intentionally try to do that, or I didn't even do that, and yet there was a benefit. So that's why in the scriptures they say sometimes we reap where we have not sown. Um, and we marvel. But it says, no need to marvel, that uh, this is this is just an ordinary thing. So not knowing how merit is unfolding for us in a moment, he says, keep your mind in a certain in a certain state. In other words, you can't help, don't hinder. You know, you keep your mind in a certain state, and then merit has free reign. Sometimes we are the obstacle to the manifestation of merit in our life. We are our own obstacle. We have not, it was like for us until we put up, and don't leave it here, we put up a roadblock to our merit coming. And we do that because of the state of our mind. Now, that's not the only reason, the only condition. There's an untold number of different, interferences and positive aspects that can come into a minute. But we can know which one it is right now simply by posing the question and waiting for wisdom to provide, Prajna to provide the answer. So we have these positive karmic forces that create favorable conditions for spiritual growth, and they also remove obstacles on the path to awakening. There are also things that we can do that help from an energetic principle that help with this. So I wanted to say, first of all, I thank you, Sukha, for your email to me, because Sukha and some were concerned that we were putting ourselves at risk by painting the pillars on the front, that it would say we're different, or it would say something that conservative people would be concerned about, and so therefore we have to consider the mind states of people, and that is very, very true. And at the same time, it wasn't a decision that I made. We got a signal, and the signal was that the Dharma protectors, when we were in Hartwood, we had Dharma protectors. They were very much, everybody knew, even ones who didn't believe, they knew not to mess with something in there because they could sense it. When we moved a couple of years ago to Barnwell, we also had Dharma protectors. Um, and some of them, even someone who doesn't believe, a nun who came who didn't believe in any of that, she said there's something alive in there, in that room. I could feel its presence, but it doesn't fit with her theology, so she couldn't go, much further with it. But she actually had to acknowledge that it was there. But many of us knew that the Dharma protectors were present in there. Now, I did something different, which I didn't do here, that I will do, but it's just like trying to tie your shoe. I was trying a by myself kind of thing, that's a story where my granddaughter was trying to tie a shoe, and I'm trying to help her. She's like, no, Grandma, by myself, you know. So I had shown her many times, and now I'm trying to help her. And she said, no, let me do it. I've learned something. And so when we were there, and no, it goes back to our first Dharma hall. I knew nothing about anything. And there was a dragon that came up through a vortex on the fourth story of the main Dharma house. And when we built the Dharma hall, it went to reside in the Dharma hall. Now, I didn't know anything about such kinds of things at that time. That was 21 years ago. And what happened, how I came to understand what was happening or what had happened is there was a group that lived down the street in a cul-de-sac, and they were all KKKers, right? Now, I had actually looked at a property in that cul-de-sac to buy for Heartwood, and chose something else because of a series of circumstances, and everybody knows that story about saying I couldn't build on our land, I had to build over there, and I'm like, I don't own that, y'all own this, and they were saying we don't care. The Davis had been working along some ley lines, and they said we're not going to allow you. Uh, you all you can't build there. We've been doing something, for, I forget whether they said hundreds or thousands of years, but they said whatever they've been doing was almost complete and we could not interfere. So by that land, I didn't have the money for that land. And then the woman comes and stays for the weekend and leaves me a check for $50,000. I didn't even know her. She just found out that there was a Dharma place and around the corner from where she was visiting, because she wasn't even from here, and came, and that whole circumstance happened. I had absolutely nothing to do with any of that. It wasn't any like aspirations, it wasn't any planning, it wasn't any of anything. I'm just going about my la day with what I know, but yet there was merit accruing with something. uh, and that's what I want to talk about today. Like, while merit may be accruing, we are not replacing, like if we do good deeds, there is good merit for that. And we do evil deeds, there's merit for that. You can't do a good deed to make up for an evil deed. Good deed is going to have its fruit, an evil deed is going to have its fruit. So you're going to get good and you're going to get, you're going to have troubles in the future. Good and not good, according to the deeds that have been done. And so that was something that I've learned over the last, 15 years, not 20 years, 15 years, because I could do a whole lot of good. I'd love to do good. And I do some bad too, but I'm thinking like I do so much good, the good's gonna make up for the bad, and we all gonna be happy, you know. So when something started happening, I'm like, wait, hold up. And I start ticking off my good list, and yeah, but it's this over here, And so when the teaching came to me, I could totally accept it when Buddha Master gave the teaching on the building the retaining wall and what cultivation is and what it actually does. It's not neutralizing bad karma. It's just moving good karma, and merit-worthy karma to the forefront, building a retaining wall to give you more of a chance to awaken. And in the state or the field of awakening, there is not the law of karma does not operate there, and so that transportation is what frees you from results when you have elevated to another realm, you see. So until that time, you're going to have good karmic results, and you're going to have not good ones. That's why bad things happen to good people, and why good things happen to bad people. It's really, really simple. So, somewhere in this life or in a previous life, stored in the seventh consciousness, that there are these seeds of both of these. So we shouldn't be, we don't even have to like really attend to what's ripening. That's why we can allow or be with what's ripening. When I say allow, I don't mean accept it like it's okay. Like if you have a picnic and you laid everything out and it starts pouring down, like, oh, I'm happy because it's pouring down, right now. I don't mean accept in that way, but that you could understand that it could not happen unless um, unless the maturing karma had a space for its expression to occur at that time. And that's what helps you to maybe have some disappointment about it, or you could even be a little upset because, the Dharma protectors don't even get that concerned about your little upset. The same way when a child has a little hissy fit, like a mature adult doesn't get all bent out of shape and kill them because they have a hissy fit. They understand that's the child having a hissy fit. They'll be okay in a little while. You can just leave them alone, or you can like instruct them, or you can give them a timeout, or whatever. But they don't get overly moved by that. So sometimes when we do things that are not beneficial, they're not helpful, or they're not useful, then there's really not much that's gonna go on because of that, because they're looking more at what you are getting, how you are transforming and changing, and they're supporting that. In supporting that, if you're doing that and they're supporting that, it starts to choke out the space for that which is unwholesome. It just chokes it out on its own. So you just wait a little while, and those things will just die off. They just fall off the map. You don't even have to worry about them. You don't have to give attention to them. Whatever the mind thinks and ponders on becomes the inclination of the mind. So if you keep looking at those things, I'm such a failure. You keep looking at those things, you're actually building the capacity to keep doing those things. And if you're focusing on those things that other people do without realizing it, you are building on their capacity to remain in that state by virtue of your own energy. And so a lot of times we think we're doing good for a person when we're actually doing the opposite, or hindering their growth and development, because we're examining what they're doing according to our own mind state, or what our lesson is, or our potential lesson is in the moment. So my mind went back. Okay, so we were in here, and I said, um, I feel like uh, there's a manifestation of the presence of wisdom, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the Dharma protectors protecting the Dharma here sometimes, but not an abiding presence. There was no time that I would walk in our original Dharma hall and wasn't aware of power. So there was the KKK, right? And people coming to Dharma. I don't know anybody. Like, I'm just got here. I don't know anybody. I'm just smiling at everybody. I know the reason that I came. I came uh, primarily because I wanted to cure generational curses in my life and in my family history, because my parents were descendants of slaves, and they were sharecroppers, and there was a long-term intergenerational animosity, you know, between Black people, former slaves, and white people in North Carolina. It was North Carolina. I'm not from North Carolina, but my family was from North Carolina. So whatever they suffered and endured, it happened in North Carolina. And so I said, well, I was born someplace else. I didn't feel the way they felt, but yet I was subject to the influence of how they felt, and the pain, and just the torture that was there in their minds and their hearts. And they would talk about picking cotton until their fingers bled, and they talked about working from sun up to sundown, and they would talk about like all of these stories, and they're filling me with these stories. And I felt their pain, and I said, what could I do to free them from this pain? And I said, what I will do is I will go to and reside in North Carolina, in that very area where they suffered so. And I would learn, well, actually, I thought I already loved everybody. So I was saying, like, because I love everybody, I'll go there and I'll just love them into goodness. So, okay, so after I got here and some things were a little different for me, I figured that I didn't have enough love, so I had to go through a training. And maybe if I had known, I can't say I wouldn't have come, because I still would come. And so in being here, I learned to understand people in a different way, and from the perspective of their view of life and their upbringing and so forth, which means that there's going to be some places that we could never come to agreement about. So how will I live with that? What will I do with that part where we'll never come to agreement on what is right or what is fair or what is good, or how will I be then? It's good, it's easy to love people who love you, but can you love people who don't love you? You know, so I had to put it to the test, and I discovered that I was lacking, and I had to really work at that. I can't work at them, I can only work at me, you know, and so that became my practice over the years, working at me. What I say about me, what I say about others. So this uh, dragon comes up out of a vortex from the up through from the fourth floor of the main house, and took up residence in the Dharma hall. So a woman comes in and says to me, "You are so brave, Pannavati. I just like admire you for your fearlessness." And I said, "No, well, what? What are you talking about?" Right. And she said, "Because, you know, my friends, and they're part of the KKK, and they come in here all the time." Like, what? I didn't know that, so I didn't know. And so I thought about what I should do. We're at the end of a cul-de-sac. The whole area ended with our place at that time. So there's only one way in, there's only one way out. When people would drive up at night, I was like, they're just trying to find out where the Dharma hall is, So I'm just thinking kind of like that. And then she just drops this bomb on me. And so I was wondering what um, it was something I needed to do or whatever. And that's when someone came and told me about, because I wasn't even sensitive to a Dharma protector at that time. Didn't know anything about a Dharma protector because we didn't really deal with it in Theravada. And explained to me that the Dharma protector had come and had taken up his abode in the Dharma hall. Now, what Panyadeepa and I realized, and others when I shared it, was that nobody would sit in that section of the Dharma hall. It was like that was this one section on the right in the back. And so we said, how come nobody sits over there? They kept saying, because it feels fierce over there for some reason. And they wouldn't sit there. But then I realized that there was a protection that was set up for me by the Dharma protectors, even though I was ignorant to it, even though I never gave them an offering, never thanked them, never understood, didn't know them to be anything that actually existed. And so I was thinking about the Dharma protectors. And I said, we need the Dharma protectors to abide in here. So we got together. So the first thing we got to do is we have to correct our behavior. We got a little bit of bickering going on. We got to get that straightened out. We have to win, even when I'm right, I have to be able to tolerate sometimes you being not right, you being wrong, and I'm the one that has to take that. Let the strong bear the infirmity of the weak. So sometimes the one who's right gets their way. Sometimes the one who's wrong gets accommodated. These are things that we have to practice to take us from being no use Dharma to cultivation, to useful Dharma. We can't like just talk it. We've got to be able to live it. Um, and so we've been working on that for a while, just I kidfully call her youngin all the time. Now, when Panyadeepa called me youngin, he was looking for a fight. I get so upset, because we'd have a different. He said, "Okay, youngin," and he'd be done with it. But I would get upset. But then I call her youngin. I think sometimes she would get perturbed. Sometimes she doesn't. Well, I know you did in the beginning. Yeah, and You can call me that. And so so thinking about these kinds of things, but what helped me with it is I realized that we have three generations here living together, you know, three completely different generations. So that's three completely different ways of seeing and knowing the world. Also three completely different time frames of having investigated the Dharma. One for 20 years, one for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, or maybe one for 3 years. I mean, so all of these things going on in one place, and then one for 30 some years. And so it's a lot put together. I said, we got to figure it out because the Dharma protectors won't come. If they come, they won't stay. They swoop down because they like hearing the Dharma or whatever, and then they gone. They're like, I can't deal. And it's not like we're doing so bad, not like we're doing so many things that are wrong, but finding fault in the slightest error is our practice. That's what we take up as monastics. So we're held to a little higher standard, not because it's imposed upon us, but because we take it up. You see, we don't have to. We take it up willingly, and so this is what goes with that territory. So we've really been working on that, like just doing really an inner cleaning, and working harder at uh, tolerating or maybe even embracing, like, don't change for me. Like the strong bearing the affirmative, I could say, don't change for me. I can change. Don't change. You don't have to change for me. And so we've been doing all of this work and asked the Dharma protectors, to come and take up residence. So then we got the signal that, because we're doing our work, we found out what was wrong. It became clear to us. Then there was established a mandala. We have never really established a mandala. It was like we just hung up the shingle, Dharma is open, you know. But these last couple of years, we've gotten training on the ritual of establishing mandala. So this is uh, 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 an example of establishing mandala. There's a particular ritual that goes with setting this up and then collapsing it. It's beautiful when you see it, and it is truly mind altering when you do it. But it's a dharma. It's a dharma that one is attracted to doing. Um, but that's an example of a mandala. The other one is consecrating, the space that it becomes a beacon for the attraction of those who should hear this Dharma. And there's certain uh, uh, practices that go with that, starting with a mind cultivation, and then there are certain things that we actually do. There are certain colors that we use. There are certain, all of these things, and a certain mindset that we have to have. Otherwise, we might need to look out. A certain mindset. Now, this mindset will establish us so that um, if the Dharma protectors either come to you, like the one that came to me, I didn't even know to seek out one, the one that came and resided in the first Dharma hall. The second method is to invite. And so this time we invited them, and we followed the rules of certain patterns, and they can get more elaborate or less elaborate. And we did the most basic, and establishing, and did the the mind work and the hard work that went with the establishment of it. So it wasn't just picking some colors and painting the posts, but there was a practice that we're doing that included those things happening. And the joyfulness in which we did it because of its purpose. And we had been asking the Dharma protectors to take up residence. The Dharma protectors took up residence today. It was this morning, I think maybe like, I don't know, it woke me up at 6 or something. Finally, I was waiting to hear somebody move. I heard Busita's door open or something like that, like maybe at 7. I said, Busita, quick, do this. And so there was something that Busita did as a Thanksgiving but today they showed up um, in residence. And they will stay in residence as long as we have an appreciation for their value and as long as we cultivate a certain heart. So I tell you, there's a kind of fearlessness that can equip you for a work, that if you don't have it, you can't do that work. It's not because you don't have a heart to do that work, but you don't have everything you need to be able to sustain the activity. But if you have it, then it doesn't mean that obstacles won't come your way, but it does mean that you can handle whatever obstacles come your way. So we had a concern about what we thought the neighbors would think. And then it came to us that was arising in our mind, and that was an ordinary mind that was thinking about the neighbors, when our original intentional mind was to create a mandala and follow the ritual procedures so that they would abide here. And that's what gave us the okay, or the permission to do it, and the joy in doing it. And so that's why they won't be going back white. But how much I appreciate, I'll tell you what scared me more than that was that some people felt that way, but only Sukha discussed it with me. I said, well, I feel really bad that somebody feels a certain way, but they can't talk to me about it, can't ask me about it, or afraid of me. And I said, am I so terrible, that you can't? Yes.
I'd like to say something to that, because I was part of that conversation. And that was an initial reaction that I had. And I realized that that was my controlling, keeping safe part of myself. But the reason that wasn't brought up by myself personally is because I have such complete trust and faith in any of the practices that you, and particularly, I know you didn't do that by yourself, and particularly the sisters that came together to make that decision, that all of those things were already considered by you. So it wasn't that I wouldn't share that with you, it was that I caught myself realizing, that was my first reaction, that, whoa, because it was a bold statement when I pulled it. And then my next thought was, like, I'm an HOA board person. I don't know that the board would like that. And then it went into, and it might be dangerous. And after that first came out, the reason I would have never said anything to you, well, I don't think you would think I wouldn't say anything to you, for one. But the reason I wouldn't have said that was because I had total and complete faith that all of those things were taken into consideration. And when I walked in today, I had an experience of calm that was just so noticeable.
Thank you. And so I think it's because, you know, you have a Rinpoche master and you have more of a background for being able to hold something, you know, for a lot of you in here. All of this is kind of new and you're only taking it in little chunks, like prove it to me. And then something happens in your own experience. So now you can accept this teaching or, you know, and as it should be. I mean, the Buddha said, like, question everything, you know, but don't lean on your own knowledge, question it. And I tell you, the thing is that Yidden will come and teach you what to do and how to do, and explain it to your mind in a way that you can understand it and you can hold it. I liken it, or it's akin to my own personal experience of what in Christianity we call the Holy Spirit. Now, I couldn't tell you what it is. I just said the Holy Ghost. If you don't get it, you need to get it, because if you get it, then you won't have a question. You may not know how to frame an answer to one who's never encountered the experience, you know. But and the words are so lacking in their ability to explain certain realities. We just don't have the right words, and because we rely so much on the known, what we already know, that when something comes that is like unknown to us, we don't know how to receive it or what to do with it, or how to even interpret what is happening. It almost has to like bowl us over before we say, wow, I don't know what that was, but it's real, or something, you know, something like that. We have to have the direct experience of it. So we have established a mandala, and we've asked there are two kinds of, or two classifications of Dharma protectors, and I'm almost through. I'm gonna finish in the next 5 minutes. And those are Dharma protectors who help us with the things that we undertake, the things that we do. And then there are the Dharma protectors who are wisdom, and those Dharma protectors are not perfectly awakened beings. Those who protect us through with undertakings, they help us, support us at undertakings. The Dharma protectors who are at Bodhisattva mind, like they don't care about so much about what you're trying to do. They care about the wisdom aspects and your awakening, right? So they're different. They're two different levels. So, like, if you really asking, say, asking Buddha to help you with something that's not pertaining to your awakening, you're like, he don't care about that, you know. You're asking the wrong person. That's like going to the popsicle man and asking him and trying to make a withdrawal. The two just don't relate, you know. But the Dharma protectors who help you with undertakings, they're a little closer, not so far from your mind category or your mind state, and what they are after, what their work is increasing their merit, and this is the way they do it, by helping living beings at what they undertake, you see. So when we utilize their abilities, then we are actually helping even to save them. We're creating the circumstances by which they can complete their enlightenment. So you see, it's still a mutual and transactional, thank you, you always sit on the front row. Transactional, um, there's a relationship going on here. So we should think that, and we should know that we are also, participating in a good work, just in our employing them to come and help us and support us. Um, and then the other Dharma protectors that are there working with our or a brightening so that our wisdom can be fuller, so that we can be more unobstructed, and so we try to make the environment suitable, um, cleaning it from a physical perspective as well as a spiritual perspective, so it would be a place that they enjoy abiding in, and just by the virtue of their brightness, we can see more clearly. They can't do the work for us. We have to do the work, but it's like turning up the torchlight so that we can see how the spots in the crevices. So today, I hope you got some understanding, if just a little bit, about cultivation in another way. So cultivating, we're changing the order of the maturing of cause of effects based on causes. So it's like building a retainer wall. And if we happen to awaken, fully awaken, then we will, then there is another realm that we exist in, that the law of cause and effect don't operate like, not in every realm does gravity and, exist, and there be the law of aerodynamics to counter it. It just exists in certain worlds, and so, uh, and I didn't want us to have any confusion about do good and you get do good causes. And when you don't do good, don't think that doing good makes up for not doing good or balances it out. It doesn't, But then it also allows you, by pushing it behind, like you're building a retainer, you're getting closer and closer to the awakening of the mind. And although the mind is not awakened, you actually can better tolerate or handle whatever is happening. That means that there are things happening all around us, things happening in the world. Goodness gracious, especially the last couple of days, So our mind might go to war, or it might go, our minds go to a lot of things that could potentially happen. But we find that we have a capacity that if we can't stop it, that we can be with what is happening because we understand cause and effect, and that we understand impermanence. So that means that whatever cause and effect happening, it's not going to be always. We understand the capacity for advancing and for retreating, for tearing down and building up. To everything, there's a time and a season under the sun. And so we can be in a moment that can be very, very scary. And if we are not developed, we will, the fear will overtake us in these times. But if we are developed, then although it's going to not be a good circumstance, we won't be utterly overtaken. You understand? We won't be overly undertaken. So we will be able to handle what we can handle in a better way. And the building of of unbounded generosity and compassion for others will allow us to be a ready help in this time of need. And so we should be preparing ourselves and getting ready to think about others. Remember the vice president, I think it was, and we talk about the training guideline. He wasn't wrong when he said the training, he was talking about love and compassion. And you start first, you take care of your family, then you take care of your neighbor, and then so the further out you got, the less you took care of them. The bulk of it goes here. If any left over, you take care of the next group. Any love and compassion left over, you take care of the rest, and it might not be none left for the last of them. And he said that was the Christian tenet, and the Pope corrected him. And he said, no, that is not it. And so within the Dharma, we find the same teaching. That's in one place, he's talking about the levels of how you start to develop, loving kindness and compassion. You can't just say love your enemies. That's a high level teaching. You gotta have developed the mind that is that expansive. So you just can't go to two people fighting and say, y'all got love each other. But if there's been the teaching, there's been the training, there's been the reflection, there comes the understanding. And as it builds and builds and builds, then he says in all four directions equally. So I don't start every day loving my family, then loving my, I start with unilateral, broad-based love for everybody. For enemy, the same as my children, the same, just all of it the same, going in all directions. But that's a practice that, I can do. I still need to do it. I still need to practice because it's not a perfected practice. But I can start there, seeing all beings equally. If you can't start where you can, but don't stay where you are, is what I'm saying. You keep adding, extending, and then you will see that we actually have that empty, luminous nature of mind. That which we are seeking, we already have. So I think that's all I want to say for today.
May the merit of our time here today goes to the benefit of all beings, those that we encounter and those that we do not. May all beings encounter wisdom, if necessary, by degrees, in their lives that benefits them, benefits those around them, benefits those they encounter. So that's an example for all beings.
Dharma protectors.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dharma